Okay, so imagine this. You stumble upon this network of lines, right?
Yeah.
Etched into the ground, super, super straight, and they go for miles, kilometers, across this high plateau in Bolivia near the Sajama volcano. And we're talking thousands of lines, apparently older and way bigger than, the Nazca lens everyone knows.
Yeah, the scale is,
Yeah.
it's genuinely mind-boggling when you first encounter it. It immediately makes you ask, how?
Yeah.
Why?
Exactly. And that's why you've joined us, right? Because it is a mystery. So this deep dive, it's basically our expedition, your expedition, into figuring out what these incredible marks are all about.
That's right. It's that sense of the unknown, isn't it? And,
Yeah.
that human drive to try and make sense of it. We pulled together different perspectives, different sources to really look at this puzzle.
So our mission today, pretty straightforward. We're going to unpack the two main stories about the Sajama Lines. First, the archaeology side, the official understanding, ancient pathways, rituals built by indigenous people.
The established view.
And then we wade into the weirder stuff, the conspiracy theories, the more speculative ideas that try to explain them, things maybe beyond, let's say, standard history books.
So we're going to guide you through both, looking at the info we have, the claims people make.
Yeah, definitely. We want to explore it all.
And it's important, I think, to say up front, we're coming at this with curiosity. We're looking at the logic, the claims for both sides.
Right. Not here to declare a winner.
No, exactly. It's about giving a full picture, what archaeology tells us, and, what still feels like a big question mark for some people.
Okay, sounds good. So where do we start? The official story. The archaeology.
Let's do that. The prevailing view, the one backed by archaeological research, is that these lines are definitely the work of ancient indigenous cultures.
Pre-Columbian, right, before Europeans arrived.
Precisely. People who lived on this high plateau for centuries, maybe even millennia. And the consensus is this wasn't like a weekend project.
Huh. Yeah, I bet not.
No, this was likely undertaken over generations. It probably evolved over time, reflecting changes in their culture, their needs.
Okay. So within that, what are the main theories? Like, what were they for?
Well, one of the most sort of practical ideas is the ancient pathways theory.
Okay. Pathways.
Yeah, and I mean, think about that landscape. It's high altitude, it can be pretty rugged.
Right.
So these lines, incredibly straight, stretching for huge distances, they could have been vital routes for travel, for trade.
Ah, connecting settlements. Or maybe important places.
Exactly. Connecting settlements, ceremonial sites, maybe key natural landmarks, water sources, mountain passes, that sort of thing. They would have been clear guides across the plateau.
Makes sense. Like ancient highways, almost, but perfectly straight.
Kind of, yeah. Linear trails, making travel safer, more efficient. The sheer effort involved suggests they were really important for connecting communities.
Okay, so pathways is one big idea. What else?
Then you get into the ceremonial and ritual use. This adds another layer, doesn't it? Moving beyond just getting from A to B.
Right, something more spiritual.
Possibly. Many researchers think these lines had real, symbolic, maybe sacred significance.
Like what, though?
Well, several possibilities. Could they have been pilgrimage routes? Paths people followed for sacred journeys to specific spots?
I could see that.
Or maybe alignments. Perhaps they lined up with stars, or the sun rising at certain times of year, markers for farming or religious festivals.
Astronomical calendars, kind of?
That's one idea. Or maybe linked to ancestor veneration, like marking pathways to burial sites or places connected to their ancestors.
Wow. So many possibilities.
And it's quite likely, that it wasn't just one thing. Maybe they served multiple purposes, practical pathways that also had deep ritual meaning.
That paints a really rich picture, doesn't it? Not just random scratches, but intentional, meaningful constructions.
Definitely.
And if they were that important and that extensive, building them must have been a huge undertaking, which points to, social organization? Social cohesion, I think was the term.
Absolutely. You hit the nail on the head. Constructing this network, and probably just as important, maintaining it over time.
Yeah, keeping them clear.
Exactly. That would require serious coordination, social organization, cooperation between different groups, maybe?
How else do you get lines that straight over kilometers of uneven ground?
Precisely. So that collective effort, working together on this massive project, probably played a big role in building community identity, strengthening social bonds.
Right, a shared purpose, a shared creation. And you mentioned it wasn't quick, this idea of time depth. These weren't built overnight.
No, definitely not. The archaeological understanding is that these lines accumulated over a long, long time, centuries, perhaps even millennia.
Wow, millennia.
It's possible. Different groups, different generations,
Yeah.
adding to the network, maybe modifying parts. It reflects this long, evolving cultural story on the plateau.
Okay. So that's the archaeological perspective. Indigenous creation, pathways, rituals, community effort, built over a very long time. Seems pretty comprehensive.
It's the framework supported by the available evidence and our understanding of Andean cultures.
But, and there's always a but, isn't there?
Often is with mysteries like this.
But then we get these other explanations, the ones that look at the sheer size, the precision, especially from the air, which obviously the builders didn't have.
Right, that aerial perspective adds a whole new dimension to how we perceive them now.
And that remote kind of mystical environment, it all seems to fuel these, let's call them more unconventional theories.
Yeah, and often these alternative ideas come from that sense of awe, that feeling of, wow, could people really have done this back then with simple tools?
That maybe the standard explanation feels incomplete or not spectacular enough.
Something like that. It opens the door to speculation about, well, other forces or influences. Unknown factors.
Okay, so let's dive into some of those what-ifs. The big one, the one you always hear about with ancient mysteries, extraterrestrial influence.
Yes, the ET theory.
The idea being, what? Aliens built them or told people how to build them.
It varies, but the core idea is that non-human intelligence was involved. Maybe the lines are landing markers, signals for spacecraft, meant to be seen from above.
Like an ancient airport runway system.
Sort of, yeah.
Yeah.
Or maybe a form of communication, a message directed outwards to the cosmos. Evidence of ancient alien contact, basically. It's very visually driven, that idea.
Okay, aliens. What else is in this speculative mix?
Then there's the advanced ancient technology theory. This one keeps it terrestrial, but suggests a lost, highly advanced human civilization.
Like Atlantis, but in the Andes.
Kind of, yeah. The idea is that humans with forgotten technology far beyond what we think ancient people had, created the lines.
Using what? Lasers. Anti-gravity.
Well, the theories don't usually specify that much, but they suggest methods we can't even imagine now. Maybe energy manipulation to move Earth easily, or incredibly sophisticated surveying techniques that just vanished.
A lost golden age of tech.
That's the appeal, I think. The idea that we perhaps underestimate our ancestors, or that there were previous cycles of civilization with abilities we've lost.
Interesting. Okay, what's next on the list of unconventional ideas?
The global grid system theory. This one gets a bit more esoteric.
Esoteric how?
It taps into ideas about ley lines, or energy lines, supposedly crisscrossing the Earth, connecting sacred sites.
Ah, okay. I've heard of ley lines.
So the theory suggests the Sajama lines aren't just local features, but part of this planet-wide grid. Maybe they align with these energy lines, or harness some kind of Earth energy.
So connecting Sajama to, like, Stonehenge or the pyramids through invisible energy.
That's the kind of connection proponents suggest. That these ancient sites are all nodes on a network, tapping into forces we don't understand. A very interconnected view.
Right. Okay, one more.
One more common one is the message to the gods theory. This leans back towards the spiritual, but maybe on an even grander scale than the standard ritual idea.
How so?
It interprets the lines as this massive collective offering or prayer directed upwards, a way to communicate with deities or powerful celestial beings.
Like drawing giant pictures or symbols for sky gods. Essentially, yeah. Given the immense effort, proponents see it as an act of huge devotion, a way to send a message, make requests, or show reverence on a scale visible, perhaps, only to the heavens.
Okay, wow. So aliens, lost tech, energy grids, giant messages to gods. Quite a range of alternatives to pathways and rituals.
Definitely covers a lot of speculative ground.
So when people push these alternative ideas, what evidence do they actually point to? What makes them question the standard archaeological view?
Good question. It's often less about finding, say, a crashed spaceship part, and more about interpreting the characteristics of the lines themselves in a certain way.
Okay, like what?
Well, number one is usually the sheer scale and precision. We talked about this. Kilometers long, perfectly straight, across difficult terrain.
Which is undeniably impressive.
Absolutely. And for proponents of alternative theories, the scale and precision seems too good for people with supposedly simple tools and no aerial view.
They argue it exceeds the known capabilities. That's often the argument, yes. How could they maintain such accuracy over such distances without modern tech? That question is often the starting point.
Okay, what else?
Then you have claims about geometric alignments.
We touched on this with the ritual idea, like astronomical alignments. But this is different.
It can be similar, but sometimes the claims are Grander, maybe? Alignments not just with the sun or moon, but with distant stars, other ancient sites miles away, or specific geographical points, supposedly with incredible accuracy.
Suggesting a deliberate, complex plan based on astronomy or maybe that Earth energy idea.
Exactly. That it implies a sophisticated knowledge of geometry, astronomy, or even geomancy that points beyond simple pathway creation. Though, it has to be said, the significance and accuracy of many of these claimed alignments are often debated by mainstream researchers.
Right. Easy to find patterns if you look hard enough sometimes.
That's the skeptical counterpoint, yeah. Are the alignments truly intentional and statistically significant, or are some of them coincidental?
Okay. What's another piece of evidence?
The perceived lack of clear tools or construction methods.
Meaning we haven't found the shovels or the alien power tools.
Well, basically, yeah. While archaeologists can infer how it was likely done, stakes, ropes, moving surface soil, we haven't found, say, a dedicated toolkit specifically buried alongside a line saying, made by.
Right. No smoking gun tool.
Exactly. And this lack of direct, unambiguous tool evidence is sometimes presented as a gap, a weakness in the conventional story that leaves room for other possibilities, like lost tech.
I see. And the last point.
Connections to other megalithic sites. People often draw parallels. They look at Sajama, then look at Nazca, Stonehenge, Teotihuacan, Giza.
And say they look similar or feel similar.
Or suggest they share common features. Massive scale, precision, astronomical alignments, unsolved mysteries. And from this, they might infer a shared purpose or even a shared, perhaps globally connected origin.
Like a lost global civilization linking all these places.
That's one interpretation some people draw. That these aren't isolated achievements, but fragments of a larger forgotten picture. Again, based more on perceived similarities than concrete links.
It really shows how you can look at the same thing, these amazing lines, and come up with such wildly different stories about them.
Absolutely. Observation versus interpretation.
So, if we follow the logic of these alternative theories for a moment, if there was something like aliens or lost tech involved, why would that truth be hidden? What are the motives for concealment that get proposed?
Right, this is where we step fully into conspiracy theory territory. If the truth is out there, why isn't it common knowledge?
Yeah, why the cover-up?
Well, a major reason often suggested is protecting the accepted historical narrative.
Meaning?
The idea is, if you suddenly proved aliens visited ancient Bolivia, or that humans had super technology thousands of years ago, well, that blows up our whole understanding of history, doesn't it?
Yeah, textbooks would need a serious rewrite.
Exactly. So the theory goes that powerful institutions, governments, academia, maybe even religious groups, have a vested interest in keeping the current story intact, so they'd suppress any evidence that contradicts it, bury the findings.
To maintain stability or control the narrative.
That's the thinking. Then there's another angle. Suppressing spiritual knowledge.
Okay, how does that work?
Some theories propose the lines, and maybe other ancient sites are connected to powerful spiritual knowledge or energies or practices that have been deliberately hidden.
Hidden by who and why?
Again, usually the powers that be. Maybe because this knowledge could empower ordinary people, make them harder to control, or challenge existing religious or social structures, keep the masses spiritually unenlightened, basically.
Okay. And the third main motive?
Often boils down to controlling access to power.
Power in what sense? Like political power or something else?
Could be literal power, like if the lines somehow relate to an unknown energy source. Or it could be the power that comes from exclusive knowledge or technology.
So the idea is, if certain groups know the real secret of the Sajama lines, whether it's alien tech or Earth energy, they'd keep it to themselves to maintain an advantage.
That's the core of it, yes. Keep the powerful knowledge or energy source out of public hands. It's a pretty common theme in many conspiracy theories, this idea of hidden knowledge equaling power.
Right. It all paints a picture of deliberate secrecy for potentially world-changing reasons, but let's bring it back down to earth a bit. We need to look at the challenges and counterarguments from the scientific side.
Absolutely essential. While the alternative theories are fascinating to think about, we have to weigh them against the actual evidence and scientific understanding.
So, first off, this idea that ancient people couldn't have built them. Let's revisit the feasibility of indigenous construction.
Right, this is key. Archaeologists haven't just guessed. There have been experimental archaeology projects, analyses of the terrain, comparisons with other Andean engineering feats.
What's the conclusion?
The conclusion is that, yes, it was feasible. using simple tools, wooden stakes for alignment, long ropes or cords made from natural fibers to keep lines straight, basic digging tools to clear the surface vegetation, and dark patina stones, exposing the lighter soil underneath.
So no need for lasers, just patience and basic geometry.
And good surveying skills, which Andean cultures demonstrably had. They were skilled engineers and surveyors, using sightlines, natural landmarks, maybe even simple astronomical observations. It required knowledge and effort, absolutely, but not necessarily lost super tech.
Okay. And the scale. How do you counter the "it's just too big" argument?
That comes back to the gradual construction over time. This wasn't one massive project done in a few years.
Right, you said generations, maybe millennia.
Exactly. If you spread the work over centuries, with different groups perhaps adding lines or maintaining sections, the task becomes much more achievable. It's cumulative effort, not a single impossible feat.
So the scale is impressive, but perhaps not impossible when viewed across a long timescale. And do these lines fit with other things we know about the people who live there, the cultural context?
Yes, very much so. We know Andean societies built massive, complex structures. Think of Machu Picchu, the agricultural terraces covering mountainsides, intricate irrigation systems, large ceremonial centers.
So large-scale earthworks weren't out of character.
Not at all. They had sophisticated social organization capable of mobilizing labor for big projects, and they have deep spiritual connections to the landscape, often expressed through modifying it, creating shrines, pathways, sacred spaces. The Sajama lines, while unique in their linearity and scale, fit within that known cultural pattern of engineering skill and landscape modification for practical and ritual purposes.
Okay. And the final, maybe biggest counter-argument to the alternative theories.
It really comes down to the lack of evidence for those alternatives.
No alien artifacts, no remnants of lost technology.
No credible, verifiable evidence has ever been found. Lots of speculation, lots of interesting interpretations of the existing lines, but no concrete proof of extraterrestrial involvement or vanished high-tech civilizations. The archaeological explanation, while maybe less sensational, is the one that aligns with the actual physical and cultural evidence we possess.
So it seems we're left with these two quite different ways of looking at the Sajama lines as we wrap up this deep dive.
Yeah, on one hand, you have the story grounded in archaeology, a remarkable achievement of indigenous engineering, social cooperation, and cultural expression over centuries.
Ancient pathways, sacred routes, community markers, built with known skills and immense effort.
Exactly. And on the other hand, you have these more speculative theories, born from the awe these lines inspire, hinting at extraterrestrials, lost technologies, hidden energies.
Which definitely capture the imagination, you can't deny that.
Oh, absolutely. That allure of the unknown, the possibility of something extraordinary just beyond our understanding, it's a powerful human impulse. It fuels curiosity.
But ultimately, the lines themselves, whatever their exact purpose or origin, they stand as this incredible testament, don't they, to the people who lived there long ago.
Without a doubt. They are a powerful reminder of the ingenuity, the endurance, and the deep connection ancient Andean people had with their environment. Their ability to leave such a vast, enduring mark is just stunning.
And maybe it's okay that some mystery remains.
I think so. While it's crucial to base our understanding on the best available evidence, the archaeology, the cultural context, acknowledging the wonder and the unanswered questions, is also part of appreciating sites like this.
So grounding ourselves in the science, but still allowing for that sense of awe.
A good balance, I think.
Okay, so a final thought for everyone mulling this over. As you think about these lines stretching across the Bolivian plateau, considering the scientific explanations, the cultural context, and those enduring mysteries and alternative ideas, what does the sheer existence of something like the Sajama lines tell us? What does it suggest about, I don't know, the depth of human history, our capacity for massive undertakings, and maybe even our place in the grand scheme of things? Something to ponder, right?
Definitely something to ponder. A reminder of the vastness of human experience, much of which remains just below the surface.